Hello there, my lovely jellyfish. And today is a special day because today is, or at least yesterday, is when Kamen Rider Drive first episode premiered in Japan. And now we have subs. And over time, obviously, fantastic sub providers, I'm going to be watching it. So I'll get back to you as soon as it ends, but I already saw. Oh, I feel like I shouldn't have spoiled it, but I did. I saw the henshin, but I want to see that thing in action. I do not know the sounds. I want to see what the story is. I have little to no um, concept ideas or any sort of idea on how the show is going to progress. So once it finishes downloading, we will see Kamen Rider Drive, and then I'll give my in-depth, not really in-depth, but first impressions. So, let go. And we are back. I just watched that. Uh, if you don't already know, spoiler. I'm gonna get into a lot of stuff, but if you don't want spoilers, again, this is just another reminder. I've probably already put it as the title of the video, but if you do not want spoilers and you want to watch this episode for yourself, again, you can get the overtime subs on the internet. But if you want to watch this yourself, please, and you don't want to get spoiled, please don't listen to this until you watched it, if you do care. But if not, I have a lot of stuff to share. Okay, let's begin. The episode begins with the introduction of the world calamity, the global freeze, which basically it it relates to the slowdown of time, all across the world, um, and it showcased immediate death, immediate destruction, explosions everywhere, people slowly dying, but they can't do anything about it because they are slowed, and monsters appearing out of nowhere, causing the global freeze, and everyone is just like dying essentially. Or at least in the instance, it was just a restaurant that was being shown, but it showed that the slowdown was affecting other areas, including where the main character was introduced. Tomari, I think. Tomari, his name. uh, yeah. So how he is introduced. But the funny thing is, not funny, but so there was death, destruction. They showcased the types of villains we're gonna be seeing. Um, One of those villains killed pedestrians with a flying bowling pin, a very large bowling pin. So spoilers on that. Um, then Tomari and his partner Hayase were are their cops, and they were fighting in the rain against two just thugs, and one of them had an Uzi, and Tomari had a revolver for some reason, and they were fighting, and then Hayase was about to get killed by the guy with the Uzi, and Tomari already like took care of his. They were fighting two thugs, and then the global freeze happened just as he was about to take down the Uzi guy, and then the bullet careens into an oil tanker behind his partner, a small oil tanker that causes a large enough explosion for his partner to fall, and then gets crushed essentially by debris. Very tragic, and there was a lot of emphasis on the fact that he was crushed and there was no way he could come back, and his hand was just red and bleeding. First episode, man. I mean, I never saw that much like fake blood, but um, implied that he was impaled or crushed. The intro was nice. It was very upbeat, like all Kamen Rider intros. It's upbeat, but it had like this. It matched the whole driving theme, I guess. Um, Parts I did not like. Well, I'm skeptical, is what I'm saying. When the global freeze was happening, there was the immediate focus on the CG cars, the toy cars that they're going to be obviously selling as merchandise, and there's It's Flare, Spike, and Shadow. Basically, you have the fire power, the spike power, and the shuriken tossing ninja power on his basic speed form. So I didn't like how they were introduced because it just seems so gimmicky how they were basically making their own roads. You'll see it if you actually care, but they manifest because they're toys, like they're toy-sized cars that are just basically floating but manifesting their own roads, so they drive on like these like small roads in the air that they can wrap around enemies. I didn't like that just because it was just a little bit too childish for me, but I can understand, like it's different, but it's not for me. It can be for someone else, but it's not for me. I'm not bashing it or anything. It's just not for me. Um, I'm skeptical on the sash powers. Basically, how Drive's we'll get into the design, but how Drive's design works is that he has his basic rider form, and then his car, Trideron, basically removes its wheel or generates a wheel that bounces and basically clips onto Drive like as a sash. Basically, the tire is full on there, but it acts like a sash. So that's where the cars come in. Flare, Spike, and Shadow. That's where they come in because they will replace that wheel. Fire just becomes like a flare circle. Spike becomes a spike circle, and Shadow becomes a shuriken, and they just attach on the body. So as sashes, basically. I'm skeptical about that because I haven't seen the like. There's like I don't remember the other type because there's type speed and I think there's type skill. I don't remember. I think there's about three, but I know one is skill and I forgot the other one. But we'll see. We'll see. But I'm still skeptical on the sashes. The act of the wheels. Basically, I don't know if this is. Well, he's lazy. Tamari seems to be a pretty lazy guy. But this is the first episode, and they did say like he got out of his slump because he was in a slump because he killed his partner essentially, and he he was not acting as efficient as possible, and it's like something about him getting into gear properly or something. So when he finally has a chance to save the guy in the episode, he gets into gear and is pretty like fast about everything. He's pretty efficient. At first I thought that the car was talking. It turns out it was the belt. So that's not really an issue. There have been many talking belts. Kiva's blaring example. I mean, even the Zector, the Kabuto Zectors were talking, and that maybe I'm just thinking about that one special episode, but they were talking. So the talking belt not really an issue. I can get over it. So the fact that the global freeze happened and from the first episode it's 6 months afterwards, it apparently became such a global pandemic that slowdown apps basically people can just like whip out their phone and be like it's like a tsunami warning essentially except for invading monsters and beasts, which I thought was kind of weird. I mean, I'm not hating it, but it was just so like I mean it shows that the world adapted to the disaster, if you call it that, but it also shows that it is a like a deadly situation. But it was so weird. Like the guy would just whip out his phone, the nerdy guy would just whip out his phone and be like, "There's a slowdown," and then just immediately panic, and then they'd see, yeah, it was weird. So slowdowns, how they basically work, from what I've seen, is that whenever a monster, I don't know what they're called yet, a destiny shift, but that's like moving through it. I don't know. Something about destiny shift, that's either the act of moving through the freeze or that's the group itself, but I think it's the act of moving through it. So the monsters, whatever they're called, um, basically can cause freezes if they decide to. It seems it's not whenever they appear. It because the guy can just be basically walking down the street and nothing can happen. But it's when he chooses to, and they can basically use it to like almost kill people. But they said that the people that were targeted, the two people that were targeted, were they just became red and like they were just like heavily injured. So I don't know. It was attempted homicide as they described it. Um, so that's the thing. Basically, what the monster chooses just slow down and drive because of his toy cars. He has the ability to move at their speed, which is a very interesting concept because it was done in Kabuto, right? Um, the clock up system, and maybe even Faiz, but Faiz only did that by himself. Um, in Kabuto, there was a thing called the clock up system, in which the suits you could press the button on your belt and it would make you go faster. Um, they did this because the worms were moving at those speeds, and thus the suits had to be you had to cast off your suit armor and then you just be in your light armor, and then that's when you could go into clock up. It's just basically it slows down everything around you, but everything moves at normal pace, but you just move faster. So to the wearer, it just appears like everything is slowing down, but it's just because you're moving faster in time. Um, so it's similar to that because the monsters can cause the speed, and the rider, but he doesn't have to be in his rider form in order to even like be not be affected. He can just have the cars attached to his belt and then he's good. So I guess that's just that's just a yeah, that's an interesting change or a difference. I'm not really opposed to it. I did like the way the Zectors were implemented in Kabuto, so I have no problem with this the freeze time whatever. So I that's a plus for me. Um okay, so Kiriko is my waifu. Kiriko is just like so badass in every like oh that's my Skype. Don't check your Skypes. If but you know Kiriko is just like that like hardballer like takes notes officer and just you know wants him to Tomari to succeed, but she's so like she knows a lot about the thing and she was working with the belt to get Tomari back into action, and she just when the second fight happened in the episode, she just came in with the car and just like opened the door, bashed some monster in. He was fighting three monsters, bashed some monster in and started shooting them. Like lady knows how to handle herself, and I was really impressed by that, and I was excited that she was able to, which begs the question at this early on, will she become a writer? Because if so, I'm gonna be excited. But if not, I'm still excited for her because she's pretty powerful on her own, and because she was at the speed of the freeze guys because she had the belt also. So it basically means that anyone that has a car in a belt can basically match their speed or move at their speed. So I guess that's a neat world building thing. But she's pretty good. I don't know. I was skeptical of the police team. They just seem like a comedic bunch. The chief, there was that lady scientist and the male nerd, and like I didn't understand like how did you get into this division? Because you guys don't seem qualified. Like the lady, maybe because she was just like, maybe she has some secret training. Not Kiriko, because there's two of them. There's this other lady who was just waving around a mini radar dish. I questioned like, how did you get into this? Because you just seem like a scientist. But I don't know. Maybe you have some secret police training. I doubt that for the male nerd guy who was holding three monkeys, I think, three stuffed monkeys, and just like squeezing their palms. I'm skeptical about that guy, but who knows, you know? The chief seems to be just like the chief, but he's just comedic. Whatever. I wanted him to be serious so he can be like, "You're a loose cannon," but you know, whatever. It is what it is. And his special attack is basically so the sashes would switch in and out, and he just puts it into his bracelet or whatever, which is okay. Like it's different. Um, it's taking lessons from what's the train Sentai? I forgot what. See, I don't watch the train. Uh, something Rainbow Power. I don't know. Like the train Sentai because they have their own like wrist and they just shove the train into their wrist. It's that, but with cars. So look, I don't care. I mean, his fighting was pretty good. Like, there's a lot more slowdown and there's a lot more CG because the stashes use CG to switch around. But overall, it was a pretty fun fight. I mean, it's a Kamen Rider fight. It's what you would expect, you know, Kamen Rider coming in, getting powered up, then like facing his omens and then fighting, and then feeling good about it later on. And then it seems that like if you're hit by the guy and you're turning red, you can just stop turning red and just like heal. So I guess he just like the red on his body just like went down, so I guess that's fine. So that's the whole episode. Then at the end, like they revealed that Kiriko was working for the belt, so really not much. Overall, I had a pretty good time with the show. Obviously, I was pausing often to take notes. This is what I was doing on my phone. I was just taking notes immediately after I found something funny or found something skeptical. But overall, the show seems pretty positive. I want to see his ultimate form. I want to see his near ultimate form. You know, I want to see these things, and I want to see other riders. Is there going to be a Kamen Rider bike? You know, Kamen Rider train? I don't like. We need to have these other riders because they will flesh out the world even more so. Like, Gaim did it pretty well, you know, it turned out to be, like, different fruits, and it was pretty fun. But, you know, and Hibiki did a lot of that, and then, you know, but even we need, like, that extra foil character for Tamari, and another writer wouldn't be that bad of a foil character. And it turns out, like, the monsters can respawn and shit if there's, like, this douchebag in a red trench coat, this glasses wearing guy in like a black garb, and then this purple dude in this purple jacket dude. So it's just like you see they're probably antagonists, probably, and then the red guy was able to revive one of the monsters basically. So it's still following the whole like problem set up in the first episode. The episode after that, problem gets resolved. It's still doing that, which is, you know, that's typical fare. Other than that, I'm pretty cool with it. I mean, I don't have problems with Kamen Rider Drive. We'll see what happens. You know, I want cool riders, I want cool costumes, I want cool powers. That's really all I want in a Kamen Rider show. Yeah. So I'll talk about this later, but I'm not gonna do like episode 2 recap, episode 3. Like that's too much for me. I just want to enjoy the show. But this was just like first episode, and maybe if there's another episode that I just go, whoa, you know what? Kamen Rider's Drive is pretty good, or Kamen Rider Drive is pretty bad. Like we'll do that, but right now it's looking good. I don't really have anything else to say for it. I'm excited. But yeah, all right, guys. Thanks for listening. Again, this was a major spoiler, but thank you for listening. I appreciate it. All right, bye.